So, in summary, in the first quadrant, all ratios, sine, cos and tan, are positive. In the second quadrant, so now we've moved to obtuse angles, sine and consequently, if sine is positive, then cosec will be also, because remember, it's just 1 over sine. They are the two that will be positive. So the sine of an obtuse angle, the cosec of an obtuse angle will be positive, but cos, sec, tan and cot will all be negative. Now I'll just slide that down. And let's go back just to confirm that. So in the second quadrant, here we were, sine was the same as the sine of theta, so it was a positive. But cos of these obtuse angles was negative, and tan of these obtuse angles was also a negative. In the third quadrant, tan and cot are the only positive ratios. So when we've got angles between 180 and 270, so yes, they're reflex, but they're reflex in this range between 180 and 270. Sine and cosec, cos and sec are all negative. Then in the fourth quadrant, the two that were positive are cos and sec are positive, where your sine, cosec, tan and cot are all negative. Now, there's a nice little, remember I said we're looking for patterns? There's a nice little pattern going on which you may have come across before, and that is the ASTC helps us to remember and which trig ratio is positive in each quadrant. So this ASTC is just the positive ratio for the quadrants as we go around in an anti-clockwise direction, starting here. This one's the first, second, third and fourth. Now, I think that the one that is still most common is all stations to central. I've heard lots of variations of that little rhyme. I don't mind what your rhyme is, it just as long as you can remember ASTC, because we will use that quite a lot from here on. The other thing I would ask you to note is that the way that we refer to the angles, so pretty obvious, in the first quadrant we just talk about theta. Theta is always the acute value, always. Try to remember that. When we move into the second quadrant, we express all our angles here as 180 minus theta. So when I'm talking about 150 degrees, I really must associate it or think about 150 as 180 minus 30 so that I have the connection between 150 and an acute angle theta. Likewise, when we get to the third quadrant, we must realise that all angles in the third quadrant must follow this pattern. You must think of them. And so again, if I have got 210 degrees, I must think of 210 in terms of 180 plus 30. And again, 210 connects with this acute angle 30. And then around in the fourth quadrant, we rewrite any value of an angle between 270 and 360, we write it in this format so that we're connecting an angle from the fourth quadrant back to its acute angle. And that's the association we make. I'll stop the video there and talk about negative angles in another video.